If you've been a Bakugan fan around, say, 2019-ish, then you probably know of the infamous Serpenteze burn deck. This deck involves Pyro's Serpenteze core and its Hyper Evo from Bakugan Resurgence, alongside 2 Bakugan that can carry 2 Fire Fist cores. This deck, honest to god, aged way too well! With new Bakugan that make double Fire Fist meta in Evolutions and Legends, Serpenteze Burn has been better than ever. Burning is a nickname given to the Mega Pyrus attack cards by the community. You commonly see Pyrus-based damage, but there's one card that attacks both Pyrus and Darkest damage. As soon as Pyrus Hyper Serpenteze was revealed to the world, people went crazy. Decks were built around this thing, and I'm pretty sure it was banned in a few tournaments, I have no clue. But people were shocked, and because of this, Pyrus Serpenteze core became one of the best Bakugan in 2019, and it still holds up today thanks to its Evo. So what do you need for this deck? Well, let's start with the obvious, Pyrus Core Serpenteze. Pyrus Serpenteze has a Green Fist and Fire Fist with 600 B power and 1 damage, so its highest B power on its own cores is around 850. In today's standards that wouldn't cut it because you have Bakugan with a base B power of 1000, but it has a Hyper Evo that costs 5 energy which raises its stats to 1000 B power and 1 damage. But the main point of this deck is the effect. When you open on a Fire Fist, you burn for 5. This is where the burn part of the deck comes into play. You just spam the ever-loving hell out of rerolls and keep burning your opponent's deck until you run out of energy. Our second Bakugan is going to be Darkest Platinum Blitzfox. Darkest Plat Blitzfox has 2 Fire Fists and a base stat line of 1000 B power and 2 damage, meaning she's at a high of 1250 B power with the cores she brings. Darkest is especially important because of one thing, Rapid Fire, which I'll get into later in this video. And finally, we have Chaos Colossus. Chaos Core Colossus also has 2 Fire Fists with a stat line of 800 B power and 3 damage, meaning it's high as around 1050 B power on its own cores. It also has a Diamond Evo that costs 3 energy and bumps up the stats to 1200 B power and 7 damage. Chaos in particular is really good for this deck because it expands the platter of cheap reroll cards, and there's one really good card in this deck that I'll look into later in this video. Now for the Rapid Fire part of this deck. If you watch my tutorial series or any other tutorial video on how to play, Rapid Fire allows the second card with the tag word to be played for free. Let's start with Energy Spirit, which is a 1-cost reroll with Rapid Fire. That's all it does, and it's effective at getting out RF cards like Darkest Scion, or preferably Twilight Axis, Dragonoid Skater Supreme, or Darkest Fire Destabilizer. Because of the possibilities, you should run at least 2 or maybe 3 of each of them mentioned. Then there's the aforementioned Serpenteze and Colossus Evos that you should 100% run 3 of, as well as Super Fuel and Song of Fire. Super Fuel is a 1-cost reroll that gives a 3 energy discount on the next card you play if you open on set reroll, and Song of Fire is a 3-cost that just gives 5 energy. The main strat is to roll Blitzfox first, even though the magnet on the Darkest Platinum sucks, pay for Super Fuel to reroll on the core you landed on, use the discount on Song of Fire, then use the energy from Song of Fire to play Hyper Serpenteze, and you basically won the game. Or you could use the discounted energy to play Spirit Speed to evolve the Serpent without wasting Song of Fire for cards that are later mentioned here. Spirit Speed is a 3-cost that allows you to play a non-flip card in your hand for free, and you can pay an extra 3 energy to do it again. So you should definitely run 3 of those as well. Honey Trap is also good for this deck. It's a 1-cost that protects your Evos for the rest of the turn. Does your opponent have Wayne, Sonic Chain, and maybe Wax? Honey Trap Serpenteze and your opponent wastes his energy. There's also a Quick Fire that's a free reroll and burn for 1. Both of these are definitely run 3s, so please run 3 of those. You also have Barbara, Kuzo, and Jenkins, which are hero cards that activate via Fury, which is important because Rapid Fire goes through your hand quickly. Barbara is a 3-cost which draws a card if you have no cards in your hand at the end of the turn, and Jenkins is a 2-cost that burns for 2 if you have no cards in your hand at the end of the turn. Highly recommend a playset of these 2. And finally, you have Emily, who is a 6-cost that burns for 2 on open! So if you roll Serpenteze and you land on a Fire Fist, you can burn your opponent's deck for 7 damage! No wonder this is a 6-cost, she's had enough of pacifism. Now granted, this deck isn't flawless as there are some counters, one such counter being the stop non-fusion cards from Shield to Destroya, as well as armor rating on some Baku gear, more notably Aurelian Accelerator. But I think the biggest counters for Serpenteze burn decks are Darkest Fire, Dodge, and back-to-back. They're both 0-cost that stop Pyrus, but the former also stops Darkest, while the latter also stops Chaos. There are other factions you can run this deck with as long as you keep Pyrus Serpenteze. You can run Ventus Harperion, who has double Fire Fists and Victor Scan, but he's only at 300 B power, so you also have to run Might of Cindius. His Evil is also kind of expensive, but Ventus can allow for Gear Destruction and Shield Breaker to be used, which bypasses armor rating of Victor. And finally, you have Aqua's Platinum Dragonoid or Aqua's Platinum Sharktar LE. They both have the same stats and cores, so it doesn't really matter who you pick. All you need them for is his card support and cord sharing. Ninja Gear can especially help spamming the hell out of Serpenteze, as you can retract him so he's ready to roll again for free. Not to mention Baku Treasure, which gives you a free card, which can also help you get the Evo out. I think Aquos is very good for this deck as well. I did link a few demo versions of the deck in the description. One for Aquos, one for Ventus, and one for Haos. But they all have Pyrus Darkus as a faction combo, and they both have Pyrus Serpenteze and Darkus Platinum Blitzfox. Feel free to swap them around, except Serpenteze. The link is mostly for my brawlers who use Untap, so play around, test it out, see if it works. If not, what adjustments could be made. Let me know in the comments so I can help fix this deck.